So hi all, welcome to another exciting Webkul podcast session. This side Goldy Bhargava, business developer at Webkul. Today with us we have a special guest from Jetrails, Mr. Robert Wren. As you know, in order to earn a big from an e-commerce online business, you should follow some of the best strategies. As you know about the strategy, hosting is one of them. If you are relying on the online website to deliver your income, you should start by selecting the right host. Now let's move further and talk regarding the hosting from the expert itself, Mr. Robert. So hi Robert, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's first of all, I would like to tell you that thank you so much, Robert, for your time. So today we are going to ask you some of the concept basic questions regarding the hosting and how Jetrails basically provide solutions to the merchants, to the businesses, to the new startups, that how they can manage their online business perfectly. So before starting that, I would like to know something about you. Our viewers would like to know something about you and Jetrails, that who you are and what Jetrails basically do.
Sure. Well, personally, I have a lot of affinity with, I'm sure, a lot of your listeners. I come from a family where I grew up in a business that was wholesaling and retailing since 1969,
Okay.
women's handbags, purses. And so
Right.
I really, align my brain a lot with that business owner and trying to build up success in a competitive market. And I wound up in the digital agency space for about a decade, helping to lead a full service agency that did design development and digital marketing. And got to
Uh-huh.
help a lot of great brands get into e-commerce with some amazing platforms like Magento. And ultimately, I've been with the Jetrails team for some time now, for over 2 years, overseeing partnerships and alliances and getting to help to bridge that gap between the developers and the merchants and the web hosting, because these things really need to work very closely together. That when
Yes.
these teams aren't aligned with each other and aren't working very closely together, that's usually where you see a lot of friction, a lot of breakdown, that no one's sure why something's not working, or there's disagreement, and so I really like the Jetrails philosophy of partnering with both the client and the developers in order to build a really successful experience. And rather than just look at it as a very short-term, or reactive thing, to be proactive in those relationships and in maintaining not just a base level of satisfaction, but overall going the extra mile in achieving growth
Mhm.
and success together.
Exactly. Okay, nice to hear this all from you. So I think we should start with the podcast now, as we get a brief about you as well as Jetrails what do. So first of all, tell me, what do you think? What are the common reasons that merchants basically think of switching the website hosting? What the situation arises in front of them, so they think of switching the website host they are having.
Sure. So there are a number of reasons that someone might switch their web hosting. It might be because they're not achieving the speed that they were hoping for, and that's holding back their marketing and their conversion rates.
Mhm.
It might be because they don't have the scalability that they need, and they realize that as the number of visitors to their site and the number of shoppers and orders is increasing, that they need something that's going to meet that demand. It might be that they've had a security incident and now they're looking for a host that has additional services and solutions that are going to help keep them safe and protected long term. That it could be that they're just having overall stability and reliability issues, that they realize that there are problems that they're facing, that they're having a hard time getting past. I'd say more often than not, it's one of these, or it's the overall support that they're having. So, when you get toward a team like Jetrails, it's mission critical support. We pick up the phone in 10 seconds for anything and everything. About 90% of the time, that first person to pick up the phone or to automatically be assigned the ticket that's sent in is going to be the one to resolve whatever request or issue. We're cutting out a lot of that back and forth, and a lot of that need for further escalation, which just takes time. And in e-commerce, that time really equates to money. That to an e-commerce merchant, any downtime or any time when orders aren't flowing the way that they want is mission critical. And so a lot of it is support. And the other area that we run into is just sheer flexibility, that a lot of the starter hosting that's out there, even from big brand names, it's prefabricated. It's what I would describe as cookie cutter. Everyone has the exact same environment, and that won't necessarily meet the needs of every business, of every website, that depending on what mix of extensions and plugins and modules and apps and integrations you have in a website, and what other customizations and things, you find that over time you're trying to, with some hosting, trying to get your website to work within an environment versus the environment working for you. And and so we do see that as well, that folks that they outgrow a type of solution that they've been dealing with, maybe a shared or multi-tenant environment, and they're ready for something that's really tailored and optimized for them, even if it's just a single server.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that if someone is going for a web hosting, so basically what they if we are talking a precise, if we are talking about the precise features, so they basically see the security, and the security is one of the most major reason, and the type of hosting they are providing to them according to the customer they are expecting on his or her website, that how the customers are there, the traffic on the website. So I think these are the major reasons which you deal, and when you talk with the merchants, that they are planning to change their hosting from one to another.
Absolutely. That when we go to look at a new customer, rather than tell them go to our website and pick a plan and hope it's right, we'll actually collect some information from them. Doesn't take very long, but we want to make sure that whatever we're going to recommend, that it's going to be right for them. And there are little intricacies with platforms like Magento. They're easy to overlook. Like some people might think about how much traffic they're getting, but maybe they're not thinking about how many concurrent admins they're going to have logged in. And if they're going to have 100 admins logged in because they're using the system in a certain way, they probably deserve to have a separate admin server optimized just for that, as part of a cluster of servers, as part of the environment. And so there are things that it's our job to catch and to help to optimize around. But beyond just looking at that, it's also, what do you want your role to be as a merchant, and for the developers as a dev team, and what is it that you're really hoping for your host to be able to do? We provide 24/7 monitoring. And so whether it's resource usage or security issues like a DDoS attack, or even some code getting pushed out that something corrupt, something doesn't go well, and there are errors being seen by shoppers that maybe the developers or the merchant hasn't noticed yet, we want to be proactive in dealing with these things, not waiting for a shopper to let the merchant know, to let the developers know, to let that we know that it's more important that everything is really continuing to load fast and to be secure and to meet all the expectations. So, in some cases, it's about looking for that partner that's going to be proactive with you. But I'd say, beyond that, it's also about the tools. And so, my core focus is often on people, because I think that that's so often in technology where things break down and where things get lost. People have good security tools, but if no one's monitoring them and they don't notice that something's going wrong, paying for the tool doesn't help. So, so what we do there is good, but it's having the malware scanning and intrusion detection and web application firewalling, and the content delivery network doing what it's supposed to be doing, and off-server backups, and following basic best practice for things like least privileged access, making sure that things are properly locked down and PCI compliant. And there's a range of what should be done in a best practice situation that's often overlooked. And it's because, people are sold on a product and they don't really necessarily get into the detail of what that product requires in order to be used properly, to be successful, to be safe. And so, as a team, Jetrails is a little bit more focused on how do we make sure that the hosting stack is well monitored and optimized and managed and maintained and supported, versus and basically let the developers have a great experience developing and let the merchant have a great experience operating the site and growing the site, and everyone gets to be successful together, rather than trying to look at how can we provide the least service and the least resource to the user and squeeze out every last bit of profitability. We see success by keeping customers long term, by having them choose to stay with us.
Okay, yeah, very, very nice on this. And I would like to ask you one thing more in this only, that it depends upon the customer. If you are dealing with a big brand, so definitely you have to engage to a lot of things. If you are dealing with a small company, small e-commerce website, so with in the both scenarios, so you basically provide every type of support, the one you are talking about, or is it something like for the big websites, your support is having a kind of a different one as compared to the one with having a less number of customers and less number of products?
So whether one of our clients has a single server with us, or whether they have an auto scaling account with us on AWS, where they're investing tens of thousands of dollars a month into their web hosting infrastructure, they get access to the exact same team, to the same tools. They might have some different things in their stack, of course. They might have some extra things that they need in order to handle some of the needs that they have, but everyone's getting a dedicated account manager and our 24/7 amazing support team and all the other tools. They're all getting the content delivery network and malware scanning and off-server backups and DNS management and caching layers and all the things that they need for success. It's just scaled to the right size user. And that does mean that there are hosts that offer shared hosting, what we refer to as multi-tenant hosting, that offer solutions that we don't directly compete with. We basically come into the market with a product that we can always expect a 5-star result with. And that's the reputation that we're looking for. That's where we really excel and thrive. Once you start to go into, offering things for a few dollars a month and really supporting a very, very basic product, it becomes hard to offer that mission critical support, that really white glove level of support. That unless you're operating basically 2 teams. And so our focus has been on generally more established brands. Again, starting from a single server and up.
Okay, nice. So let's move to the next question. Regarding the hosting, what do you think that hosting a Magento 2 platform, Magento 2 based website, very different from the Magento 1 website, if we are talking regarding the hosting?
So from a hosting perspective, it's not all that different. There are a few things that get spun up for Magento 2, which uses Composer and other things, but and different versions of PHP and such that are going to be compatible. So there are some adjustments along the way. I'd say in more modern versions of Magento 2, there are things that are being run like Elasticsearch more commonly, that have some changes for others. For us, because they're dedicated environments, it's rather easy. For hosts that were more accustomed to shared hosting, some of those things are more of a challenge because they're not meant to run in that kind of an environment. So not tremendously different. We've had customers that have upgraded from Magento 1 to Magento 2 without notifying us on a server provisioned or an environment provisioned for Magento 1, and been successful with it. Again, usually we'll come in and we'll do additional tweaking and adjustment. It can be a little bit more resource intensive in some use cases. We find that, especially when it comes to the loading speed, it can take a little bit of extra effort, but that's very normal for us. That's just part of our service, to come in and make sure that all that's optimized. And I'd say the same if we were talking Magento open source versus Magento Commerce, formerly Community Edition and Enterprise Edition. Regardless of which one we're hosting, the resources needed don't change drastically. Magento Commerce is really running extra modules. It's like saying that you add extra extensions. So could you need some more disk space because your database is growing, because you've got gift cards and reward points and other things in Magento Commerce? Could there be extra there? Sure. Could you need a little bit more, server resource, CPU, RAM, something else because of everything that you're running in it? Sure, but by and large, it's the same core platform. From our perspective as a host, as far as the server is concerned. So, nothing too drastic.
Great. And as you know, that Magento 1 comes to an end. So the customers which you are having on the Magento 1, so what do you feel for them, that they have come to the Magento 2, they have switched to the Magento 2, or what? You are still supporting the Magento 1?
So it's a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B. I would estimate very roughly, I haven't seen the numbers this month, but I'd say that about 80% of our Magento 1 users have upgraded to Magento 2. Those that remain, a large portion of them are using solutions like Mage 1 or OpenMage in order to stay patched and updated. We have some good partnerships on market that help with that. And because we're locking things down with our security solutions and protocols, and with partners that we work with, so I think that's also something that's interesting, is that rather than us try to be the masters of all trades, and it doesn't usually work out that well. You're the jack of all trades and master of none in those situations. We partner with companies like Cloudflare and Sucuri and Sansec, and the list goes on. And so we're using best-in-class tools as part of the security that we're providing for these merchants, just like we're working with Mage 1 and OpenMage. And so they're doing all right, but I would say that a good portion of those that are still on Magento 1 with us, we know that they're on their path to Magento 2. They have dev servers for Magento 2 already. They're working on it. So we think that at least, for our niche in the market, which is, more established Magento merchants, that that by and large that they are upgrading, and that those that are remaining probably will be on Magento 2 by next year. Some of them will sooner than others, but I think that for our user base, it won't be a large number that we're going to see that decides that they're going to stay on Magento 1 for more than this year. Maybe a handful.
Yeah, I think the more they are, maybe this is a common thing that the customer wants, the merchants want, that they should be step into something which is good, because they know that Magento 1 is the end now, and this time they have to switch on the Magento 2. There are various reasons that why they are switching to the Magento 2, but I think we should not discuss all of them, because there are plenty of which I think merchants are considering. If we are talking in a precise manner, so like maybe the customer database for their website have been increased, or they have been like looking for the more secure solutions, because they think that the Magento 1 is not able to provide much support. So how they are going to manage the website? Maybe these are the reasons.
Absolutely. The technology changes over time. And so while you can keep your site secure using patches from Mage 1 and hosting like Jetrails that's going to help with that, you're not in those situations getting new features. And there's really just about no new extensions or additions being written for Magento 1. And so what's happening over time, or integrations for that matter, is your other software upgrades and other things change. At some point, that becomes a point of friction that you're not able to support what you need to. For now, I think that the merchants that I talk with that are still on Magento 1, they're okay. But they know that they're, I think the phrase is that they're on borrowed time. That basically they're driving an old car, it's getting them to work, it's getting them home, it works. They don't want to buy a new car any sooner than they need to. I can't blame them. They've invested into it. They're not going to get any return on that. Build a new site, you're starting fresh. But at the same time, it is a cost of business. And There are a lot of platforms out there that I think those of us that have been in the industry long enough, we've seen things like this before. So if you're, I remember when sites needed to go from just being desktop focused to having a mobile version, and we had to, rebuild everyone's theme to be mobile friendly, to be responsive. And
Okay.
businesses of all kinds, including e-commerce merchants, had a hard time swallowing that pill that you mean you need to rebuild our entire theme. And at some point, there were holdouts, but they catch up. And I think that that's just what's happening with the market is that businesses need time to budget and for these things to make sense, but they're getting there one by one.
Okay. So, as I have asked you a question that is there something different between the hosting a Magento 2 website and hosting a Magento 1 website? So, do you feel that there is a kind of a difference in hosting a Magento open source or a Magento commerce on premises? Is there a
Yeah.
difference?
There's not for us a particular difference. The only difference that we really run into in that situation is if we were looking at Magento on-prem versus Magento cloud, where the hosting is provided by Adobe. We see a lot of differentiation there where that's back to one of those inflexible environments where you can't, if you go to the Magento extension marketplace and take a look at just the overall extensions page, you'll see maybe 1,500 or so extensions that work with Magento Commerce on-prem, and you'll only see hundreds that are compatible with Magento Commerce Cloud. More rigid environment, less support compared to a team that's at the ready to help at all times, like a Jetrails. So we find that there are differentiations in market depending on what license you take, but between the Magento open source and Magento Commerce on-prem, not a lot of difference. That for us, we have customers that upgrade from open source to commerce on-prem, and their billing from Jetrails doesn't particularly change in some cases. That it really depends on the use case, on what their exact needs are, but it's the same core. So what you're getting when you upgrade is mainly modules. You're getting, in essence, extensions. There are some other things there that you're paying for, but if you have a really good development team, then you're going to go to your developers for support anyway, not to Magento's team, who doesn't really know anything about your particular site and what's unique about it. And so there are some ups and downs to why someone would choose one or the other. There are absolutely good use cases for Magento Commerce, and there have been many times that I've recommended it to merchants, but by and large, you're getting the same core.
Yeah, because as a business developer in Webkul, and as you know, Webkul is an e-commerce development, plugin development company. So, if we are talking about a small merchants, if we are talking about a big merchants, they all want something custom. They want something customizable plugins in order to increase the functionality of their website. And I don't think that if we are stick to a platform or if we stick to a hosting which is going to deliver some limited amount of things for your website, so they are going to switch on that. Because as you have mentioned that Jetrails are, sorry to interrupt, but Jetrails are having a lot of different kind of features in, if you are talking about the fast speeds, and if you are talking about the reliable hosting services and the scalability of the website. So they are going to switch to the hosting companies like you, like Jetrails.
Absolutely, and I think that, and that also, has to do with things like scalability and things that we're really good at auto scaling for the larger merchants. And there's a lot of detail to why you might choose one over the other. And I think even, sometimes we talk about small merchants and Magento open source and large merchants in Magento Commerce. Some of the largest merchants I know are on open source. And part of the reason is that they realize that a lot of those modules that they would get with Commerce, they would just have to rewrite anyway, or in some cases they've done it. And so, Magento Commerce might come with a reward points solution, but they're going to use something stronger on market anyway that's going to meet certain business requirements that they have, and so on and so forth. So, I always tell people the best way to determine if Magento Commerce is right for you is not anything having to do with the amount of revenue that you have. It really has to do with building a spreadsheet and taking a look at what are the benefits of commerce that you're going to utilize, and what would that cost you to achieve with open source and to maintain with open source, not just to get it at once, but to maintain it. And at that point, you kind of get to see that over the course of 5 years, what would it cost you in Magento Commerce licensing versus to build it and maintain it yourself, or to use extensions or other available solutions? And I think that that's often what's missing from the conversation. As soon as you get a finance department involved, they're very good at this. And, it's one of those show me the money questions. How does this add up?
Yeah.
How does this make sense? When we take away the emotional side of it, and like I say, sometimes there are smaller merchants that have an outsized benefit of going to commerce because, let's say, they're B2B and they're really going to use the Magento Commerce B2B features as they are out, off the shelf with, maybe with some customization, but that some of those things, and plus they're going to use a lot of other features, it becomes an easy decision. And so that's always just my way of thinking of it is it's not just about the size of the business, but it's about an actual use case. Because if not, that's a big licensing fee that's just taking away your budget from marketing and growth and customization and things that will help you. If you're not going to wind up using those Magento Commerce features, if they don't bring you real value, if they're just niceties, then it's not necessarily the right choice. So I'm very supportive of the Magento team, of the Adobe team, and their sales process, and I think that more merchants should look at which one is right. I just always feel like sometimes that part of the conversation gets left off, just like the part of the conversation about which hosting is better, Magento Commerce Cloud or on-prem, gets left out of the conversation, and merchants don't always know what the difference is and what they're giving up in one direction or another. And so I always circle back to doing your homework, doing your research, because this is a form of marriage that when you sign that agreement, you're not going to change for a long time. You're going to be locked in for a good period of time.
Exactly. Yeah. So as we are talking more of Magento, so I would like to know one thing, that Jetrails is basically for the Magento hosting, because as you know that Magento is a big e-commerce platform, and we have different kind of e-commerce platforms like WooCommerce, OpenCart. So is Jetrails is into only for hosting of Magento based website, or they are also in part of OpenCart and WooCommerce?
It's a great question in that people think of this differently. Some people think that they're best off if they go to a host that only supports Magento, but what you usually find with that is a prefab host that can't handle the more custom sites and the more intricate use cases. And so for us, we have more flexibility than that. An absolute majority of our users are on Magento. We're very much tied in with the Magento community. We've written a few different Magento extensions that specifically help around things like security and hosting. I'm one of the top solution authors in the Magento community forums, and I'm a Magento, or at this point an Adobe expert, what would have been a Magento solutions expert in the past. And other members of our team are just as involved in the community. And so for us, it's absolutely part of our identity, and it's important to us, but we wind up helping a lot of those same businesses with their WordPress hosting, their Drupal hosting, with other things. And as they switch to something like WooCommerce, or they have other websites within their organizations on other platforms, we support them. And so we do offer other hosting of other platforms, but most of our marketing and a lot of our engagement community-wise goes toward the Magento community. So I think it's a really healthy balance that we're able to support developers and businesses and others because of the nature of how we architect and tailor and customize and optimize around the user and the application. We're not locked into only Magento, but it's a real big focus for us. So there's that nice balance.
Okay, nice to hear that. Okay, so as we one more question I would like to ask you, that regarding the loading speed, what do you think that loading speed is a big challenge For example, if we are talking about the Magento community in specific, so what do you think that is it a big challenge if we could talk about the loading speed?
I think that it's a big challenge only because whether it's in the Magento community forums or on Reddit or Quora or wherever I'm hanging out on a day-to-day basis, seeing what people are having issues with and what their challenges are, or the merchants that reach out to Jetrails. We have a speed test on our site. It's used
Yes.
very, very often. Um,
Yes.
that Magento 2 requires, in order to load quickly, certain things. It
Hmm.
requires, a caching and other layers to be not only present but properly optimized and such, and that's not always a core strength for every host and every situation. And so a lot of merchants struggle with speed when it can be so much better, that to us, time to first byte, TTFB, should be, we're measuring it in milliseconds,
Yes.
and it should be blazing fast. And so often, we come to sites that the time to first byte is multiple seconds, forget milliseconds. And so that means that by the time that the page can actually load, for a shopper, that it's just way too long. And so there are things that are important. Often, some of this does come down to utilizing the proper tools, caching like Varnish, that
Hmm.
really works so well with Magento, and the Magento is built to work with. The CDNs like Cloudflare that, when properly optimized, can really help with everything from the image optimization to minification of different things and other things on the fly. And so you get all of these different layers working together, a well-optimized and configured hosting environment, and these other layers, and it can work out really well. And the other side of this absolutely comes down to dev teams like yours, because, so let's say we set up Varnish properly. There still has to be configuration by the developers, what we call hole punching, things that
Yes.
happen, that bring it all together, that it's not about one vendor, that it's not magic. It's
Yes.
good hard work from experts that know what they're doing, and that are working together. And that's what's often missing. That when I see people posting, they're trying to self-manage on AWS or DigitalOcean or somewhere, or they don't have the support that they need from the people that know what to do to get it right, and that are monitoring what's changing in market, and how do we keep up with it. So I think that speed is absolutely a challenge, but it's a challenge that gets overcome every day, by just
Hmm.
following best practice, by having the right people involved. So that's the good news, that there are other challenges in life that are a lot harder, because there is no straightforward path toward success or solution yet. This is
Yes.
one that it's just about, I think, about making, doing your homework and making the right choices.
Yeah, because if we are talking about the loading time and the loading speed, so and if a customer comes to the website, because there are many website, many competition in the e-commerce. For example, if we are talking about the US only, so Best Buy, Amazon, these are like a big competitors, because the a customer visit each and every time. There are millions of customers who are visiting the website, and if a customer is not able to get the information quickly within a fraction of seconds, so I think there is no much, they are not going to stay on the same page. They are going to
Yeah.
switch, they are going to see that product on some other website. That's it.
They're going to lose both trust and interest very quickly.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so because especially if it's a brand that they're not as familiar with, or a site that they haven't shopped with before,
Yes.
it just
Yes.
doesn't, something feels uncomfortable, something isn't, aside from just losing their attention. We
Hmm.
know empirically, at this point there, and I've written some articles on it over time, that there's a cascade effect to not having your loading speed as fast as it should be. And it starts with, search engines like Google are going to take into account your loading speed, and that can hurt your organic search engine rankings. Paid ad platforms like Google Ads are going to take into account your loading speed, and that's going to affect your page rank, which will affect, your overall campaigns, both what you're paying per click and when you're going to be shown and when you're not, in the ads. So you're having all these things happen before you even got a chance to make a sale, got a chance to
Exactly.
have the shopper browsing through your site and thinking about making a purchase. And then once they're on the site, absolutely, the conversion rates are going to be dramatically impacted in some cases by loading speed. So, it's the same reason that a lot of merchants use some form of a one-step checkout instead of the native checkout solution, and
Exactly.
that they add
Exactly.
other features in the checkout to optimize. It's because we know that it's very easy to lose shoppers along the path, and we want to take away that friction. We want to make it really simple. You want this? Great. Please, here, take it and pay and check
Yeah.
out, and life is good.
Exactly, because the customer satisfaction also comes there. Because if you are providing a good user experience to the customer in the whole complete checkout and browsing to all the products, I think they also build a kind of a relationship or kind of a trust with the website that, yeah, this website is a good one. I'm able to browse through all the product easily. The checkout is easy, and I think the page are loading fast, so I don't have to move here and there. So I think these are the something which also help in the customer retention. So yeah, the companies needs to understand these kind of things before going to the website e-commerce business. Okay, nice one. This one. Okay, so the next question for you is like, are you guys offering a shared hosting or a multi-tenant for the e-commerce businesses? Are you into that?
So we're actually not. I mean, Jetrails, as a company, our team has been in web hosting since the year 2000. So there's a
Hmm.
history there that goes back to the shared hosting and the less managed or unmanaged hosting and other things from an earlier era of the internet. But
Okay.
we've found that if we provide that, the expectation, the needs, the desires, the wants, the goals of our clients don't downgrade.
Hmm.
So we give them less, and they're not satisfied with it. It's like going into a restaurant and being given a half a meal. You're not going to
Hmm.
leave a 5-star result just because you paid less. Didn't mean that you were happy with what you got. That you felt
Yeah.
like you needed more, and it didn't really. No one is set up for success. So there are some teams that are really built around that shared hosting model. And
Hmm.
we've looked every year. We look at it and we say, there's a lot of demand for it because people want a product that might start at a little bit of a lower price, but the value isn't there. That they don't wind up with the security, the speed, the scalability, the reliability, the support, all the things that they're looking for. And so, yes, it's a product that you can sell, and some, I believe, again, for use cases where it makes sense, do a pretty good job with it. They do the best that can be done. But we're really focused on providing that more nuanced product that's going to
Hmm.
focus on someone that's grown beyond that. That
Okay.
their business is at a point where their business is mission critical to them, and they are
Hmm.
looking for mission critical results. And that
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean that they're that they're an enterprise, right? This just means that even as an SMB, that they've gotten maybe to that mid part, and they're a little bit
Yes.
past the S in SMB, and they're up to the M, and so they're looking for something more reliable, and maybe it costs a little bit more, but they know that in increasing their conversion rates and in increasing their uptime and decreasing the time that their developers that they're paying by the hour, let's say, have to go back and forth
Yeah.
with their hosts and this and that it's a good investment and they sleep better at night. So that's kind of where we want to be. That it's very very difficult sometimes to give the market exactly what it's asking for, because what it's asking for isn't always what it really wants.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Very true. Okay, so let's just move to another question. That what do you think that if a merchant is having a web hosting, if he's selecting a web hosting, so how do you think that the web hosting impact the e-commerce marketing campaigns? If you are having a great hosting, so it is going to impact like a good one, or is it like same for all?
So I wrote an article on this on our blog recently, and it's a topic that I've been talking about for years because I come from that agency background where
Yes,
Google
yes.
Premier partner, and did a lot of strong marketing for a lot of merchants. And so the speed is absolutely going to impact those campaigns as we've spoken about. But then you get other things like scalability, that you're spending a lot of money on, and stability and uptime, and support response times. You're spending a lot of money on marketing, maybe thousands of dollars a month or more, and you're spending so little on your hosting, and the hosting can't meet the demand. So there are things that we do when, with our clients, part of having dedicated account managers and regular check-ins with clients, we make sure that we know what their seasonality is, when they're expecting traffic increases or spikes, what their marketing campaigns, their upcoming, look like. And so we can do things like load testing to make sure that the site, not just the hosting environment, because keep in mind, maybe there's a recent patch that they installed, or a recent extension, or something else, or an app that's going to bottleneck. And it's not always about the hosting, but the environment needs to be tested to make sure that it can handle the traffic that they're going to get. That the worst thing that can happen is that the traffic comes and they lose out on all those sales because the site can't support it. So
So
there are a lot of
let's
those sorts of things that go into it for us.
let's take an example. If you are having a Black Friday sale, if you are having a Cyber Monday, if Christmas is coming, New Year, at that time, what Jetrails, how you are basically deals with keeping the e-commerce website scalable. So how you look into that?
So there's the load testing that's going to test the application itself, as well as the hosting, to make sure that everything is going to scale properly. We're going to work with the client to estimate what their peak traffic loads might look like, as best as can be estimated, because these things grow and change over time. But
Yes.
we're also going to look at what we need to roll out. And so if they're on dedicated servers with us, we offer a product called a booster server, which is not a long-term, they don't have to sign a multi-year agreement for it. We spin them up for when they need it. We spin them down when they don't. And so it's a pay for usage product, so that if they only need for Q4, for let's say November and December, this
Yeah.
increase in resource, we can spin up the servers for when they need them, spin them down when they don't. For those of our users that we have in the cloud, we partner with DigitalOcean, with AWS. We do a lot of work with AWS environments that auto scale. And so for those environments, we set them up so that they scale both horizontally and vertically, not just adding more CPU and RAM, not just more resource, because, think about it like any computer, one motherboard, right? Once it's going to bottleneck. We automatically spin up more web nodes, more cloud computers. And so, we have clients that might go from a couple of web nodes to 10, or 10 to 40, to meet the need of that rush of traffic. And some of these are big companies, and some of them not as big. We have customers that certainly do 90% of their business in Q4. And so all year long, they need something up and running, but they don't necessarily need all of that compute power to be paid for all year long, to be sitting on all of those the bare metal servers that they're not getting value out of. It's not good for the environment. It's certainly not good for their bottom line, for their profits and such. So we do a lot of that. And so this comes down to an individual basis, whether it's a more predictable traffic pattern, and the dedicated servers might make the most sense, might be the best return on investment, whether a cloud solution with auto scaling is going to be the best. There are pros and cons to all of it. And so we do take a look at that, and we'll often offer both solutions to the client and figure out what's going to make the most sense. Because in order to have all that proper auto scaling things, there's some setup and some, it's a little bit more of a robust environment. Usually the starting price is a little higher. So there are things like that are going to come up into the conversation. And that for us, cloud isn't about a buzzword. It's not, we don't think that people, should choose one or the other. Just because we think that they should do it because it makes the most sense for their business. In a lot of cases, it does. And we're here to support them in whichever direction they need to go in.
Yeah. So basically, the add-on, we can consider it as an add-on, because the companies are having their own plans with you. So if they are expecting a great growth or a great traffic in the quarter four, so they just take your add-on which you are
Mhm.
having, they just implement them, and they are set for having a big sales or like big shopping days.
Exactly. And the same would apply regardless of what time of year or whether it was just for a big marketing campaign that they're doing with some crossover partner in industry that's going to be, going to market with them with something cool or whatever the case may be. When they know what they're expecting, yeah, we can, those add-on servers, those booster servers are great when they have no idea how much traffic they're going to be getting and the sky is the limit. Auto scaling with AWS is how we like to handle that, and it's phenomenal. We got through another year of Black Friday and Cyber Monday and the holiday shopping
Mm.
season without any AWS issues with our auto scaling environments. So we were really always
Yeah, it
excited to
basically
see those deployments.
provide what I can say in this, let they basically let the companies, if the company is not a big one, they let the small companies to select for the best the add-ons from your side, the
Hmm.
best advantage they can take without spending much for an year. They can just understand to use their your add-ons for a specific time in a year, considering their
Absolutely.
budget,
A
considering
majority of our
their
customers are on month-to-month billing with us. And
yes,
so, we really do believe in earning the business of the client. There are some times when people will lock in for better rates and things, especially with platforms like AWS, that can make a difference.
yes,
But,
yes.
we reserve instances and do other things to make that happen. AWS has savings plans and things that help with that. But the principle is the same. It's about what's best for the merchant rather than, a lot of traditional hosts don't provide the optimization and configuration and support layers that we do. And so when there's a problem, when there's a resource issue, they throw more hardware at it and they sell you more hardware. They sell you a long-term hardware upgrade. We want to help make sure that the configuration is right, that we can optimize from all of the other angles and work with our dev partners. And so spinning up solutions like New Relic to help the developers to find things that might be eating up resources or otherwise impacting the resource needs. And so rather than continuing to spend extra money to pay for more hardware and more physical resource, we want to look at it from the other side as well. And so rather than always be about selling more hardware, we really, really work hard to be more about bringing the client value and being a really good long-term partner. And that's why, like our case studies on our site, they're
Okay.
mainly they're clients that have been with us for years and years. And as long as they stay on an open source platform like a Magento,
Yes.
we know that our attrition rate is really low, that we're able to continue to retain our clients by going the extra mile and doing right by them.
Nice. Very nice. So I think today's podcast session is a really great one, because if our viewers are going to have some queries on the hosting concepts, and if they want to know about the insights which Robert have given, I think this podcast session is the must to listen. And thank you again, Robert, for your valuable time which you have given to us and come in such a short notice for this podcast session. So thank you so much for that. And also, I would like to tell you that Webkul is in, like they used to have Magento events, community events. We generally do, and we do it in India only. And I would really like to meet you in person. And I invite you that, might be if the Corona is not in 2021, if it is like it's a situation that we can do a meetup in persons, so we will definitely going to invite you for there, and we would like to meet you in person. So thank you so much, Robert, and have a great day ahead. Thank
The
you.
pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to once the world turns back right side up to
Yeah,
getting to meet in person, and nothing would make me happier.
yeah, thank you so much for that. Have a great day ahead. Bye bye.